Hi, Zach. AJ Green was obviously out today. Can you specify what's going on with him?
Yeah, we're just going to be very precautionary measures with him.
Okay.
Again, I've seen him practice for 2 days. I saw enough to get us the first game. Obviously, he needs to develop that chemistry with the quarterback, but again, nothing I'm concerned about right now. Give him a couple of days. We're going to practice on Friday. We're going to scrimmage on Friday. He was not going to scrimmage anyway. A couple of those veterans, we're going to slow down a little bit as we get into this thing. So,
Is
no,
it his?
just being precautionary.
Sorry, is it his hamstring that's a little tight?
He's just got a little tightness in that area. Yeah, but
Mhm.
again, nothing I'm concerned about right now.
Okay, and can you also provide an injury updates for Sean Williams, Vernell Wren, and T. Higgins, who also set out practice today?
Yeah, T's working back in individual now, so we're progressing that. We don't want to do it too quickly with these rookie receivers because really we got our hands on them 2 weeks ago. And really, both the rookie receivers as they got going had just slight hamstring issues, so we're going to be slow to work them back in individuals into practice, even though they're both starting to feel pretty good right now. Sean Williams, don't quite yet know the diagnosis on that one. When I left the training room, they were about to sort that out. And then who else did you ask about?
Today, how did you think Joe handled that and handled the red zone stuff you went through?
He's progressing well for the third day. You know, there's still things that we need to work on as a unit, obviously, and the quarterback's the one that leads that unit. But I think that he's on the trajectory that we hoped he would be on, you know, through 3 days of training camp. There's a great urgency right now on both sides of the ball. We really do feel that. It's not perfect. You know, there's mistakes being made. The communication issues we're still having a little bit these first couple of days. But I do like the urgency. I do like the competitiveness. These guys are holding themselves to a high standard. When there's mistakes made, they own up to it quickly. They get them fixed. There's not a lot of things going on that we have to say twice to the guys, or sometimes even at all. You know, they're quick to admit their own mistakes right now, which is where we need to be at. So, again, we're making good progress through 3 days.
You know, when you guys were going through the Zooms and doing the virtual walkthroughs and huddles and all of that, what were you looking for out of Joe to see if he could, when you were trying to gauge how well he was grasping what y'all were teaching him?
Command of the offense, you know, be able to communicate it back, understand the intent of why we're doing things, the communication part, which we always preach. Again, we worked on the cadence, we worked on a lot of the checks and things like that. And even though we weren't live on the field, we were able to simulate some of the situations we could be in. I think that served us well here through the first week of camp.
Coach, have you spoken to John Ross at all? And if so, how are he and his family doing?
Yeah, you know, he's on the reserve list right now. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But, yes, I've spoken to John.
It looked like the defense got the better half of the offense today. What are your initial takeaways from the first padded practice?
It was good. You know, there's a physicalness on both sides of the ball that we need to see. Obviously, we weren't taking anybody to the ground today. That'll happen on Friday, the first time we're really live. But it was good to see the pads pop and these guys really get after each other. You know, it's the competitive juices get flowing, you know, and we want to protect our teammates. But overall, I thought it was a good start to the padded portion of training camp. And we'll see more of that. You know, we're going to utilize, you know, just about every padded practice they're going to give us.
Coach, any players jump off the charts today in terms of just how they played and your surprise in terms of a rookie looking like, man, they're really picking this up quickly?
Well, I just think overall the linebacking unit is a really competitive unit right now, young and old. You know, all the guys that are in that room are really, really fighting, and they've really paid attention to the details. Again, just like all the positions, it's not perfect, but I have seen progress really from everybody in that room. And so that's a really competitive room right now. And to single out another unit, the receivers, there's a lot of competitiveness in that receiver room as well. Those guys have all really stepped up and made plays, and they're doing the little things well. And we're throwing a lot at them. So there's some mistakes that have been made that we got to correct. But overall, I think that those two rooms are rooms that have a lot of depth right now that you can see the competitiveness there, and that's been good.
It looked like Auden Tate and Mike Thomas were working with the ones today in 11s. What have you seen out of them for them to kind of earn that spot so far?
I really don't even look at it as ones, twos, and threes right now. I really do feel like a lot of our receivers could roll through all the units. But Auden Tate, obviously, he's a guy who I've been impressed with since we got here. He's a total professional. Even though you consider him a young player, he's a pro. He's on top of the details and special teams with Darren and Colt. He does a good job He's got a great grasp of what we're trying to do on offense, playing a lot of different positions. He can play a lot of positions for us as well. So, and then Mike Thomas is an explosive guy. Been around him a couple of years, and he's got that explosiveness to him, and really gets on those DBs quickly. So those are two guys. But again, you could really go down that whole receiver roster right now, and you could single each one of those guys out for some things that they've really done a good job of.
Coach, it looks like not just with the Bengals, but on a league-wide basis, defensive tackle depth. It seems to be an issue. It's like there aren't a whole lot of defensive tackles out there growing on trees. I mean, it seems to be a problem league-wide. Is that accurate? Are they hard to find?
That and just going from 90 to 80, and then you get a couple guys banged up at any position, and now you're down to really 77 or 76 guys practicing. So, you quickly realize the difference in the depth there when you go from 90, about down 15 guys from what a normal training camp would be. And you certainly feel that depth when one guy leaves a practice up front on either offensive line or defensive line. So I'd agree with your assessment there. That's probably an issue. I haven't paid too much attention around the league right now, but I can get that sense a little bit. That's a problem at other places as well.
Do you sense, Coach, a certain saltiness on defense that might have been missing last year? Bell popped Gio today, and really nobody said anything except,
That's not true.
Oh, okay. But it did seem like it. But it did seem like it does seem a little bit saltier. The strip.
Yeah, it is. It's competitive, and guys. It's nothing personal. Guys are going after each other because they like to compete, and there's just frustration on some plays when an offense gives up a play that they shouldn't have given up, or the defense gives up a play. It means something to the guys. They're upset about it, and sometimes they take out the physical aggression. I told Vaughn, just take it out on your position coach. Rob can coach in the sling, but don't take it out on Gio. Okay, so but those guys, they're good about it. They know they're trying to protect each other. But it's been competitive through 3 days, that's for sure.
Seems like we're really mixing and matching the linebackers a lot, Zach. Is that an attempt to use their skills in various situations, or are you trying to figure out, all right, which are the best guys that are ultimately going to be the ones that get the most snaps?
A little bit of both. You're right on that, Dan. And, sometimes you want to make sure there's not two rookies standing there next to each other. Try to get in there with one of the veteran guys, whether it's Bynes or Cletro or Jordan or any of those guys, and then get one of the younger guys next to him to kind of bring them along. So that way we're on top of the communication. But again, it's like a lot of the position groups right now. You're not looking at a first team and a second team and a third team. We're free to mix guys up, and we feel really good about our depth right now. Probably also we got a better feel for the guys we got on the team. But do feel good about the depth with the ones and the twos, mixing those guys up and not missing a beat.
Zach, we just spent some time with Joe Burrow. We were asking him basically how confident he is that given this unique situation, he can still be ready week one as a rookie quarterback. You guys would not have drafted him, and I'm sure in the process you learned about his confidence and knew about his confidence coming here. But now that you've been around him, has the depth of his confidence surprised you for a guy at that position at that age?
No, he's been through this before. He's transferred in the summer months and had to quickly get ready to compete in one of the premier conferences in college football against some great competition. So he's had to do this quick study stuff before, where you really got a summer to prep with no physical reps before you show up for training camp. And so it doesn't surprise you because you know his history. And again, he's done the things that we pictured him doing when we took him. Again, we still have room for improvement, that's for certain, but he's doing a good job leading the group right now.
How important is that intangible, do you think, for your football team, for your quarterback, even at a young age, to have that kind of unwavering confidence about himself?
Critical.
Well, Zach, is that rare to see a guy with this much confidence as a rookie, especially at that level? How would you assess where Joe's at mentally compared to other guys who would be in a similar position?
Well, he earns it. You don't want to compare him to anybody else because you just see the work that he puts in individually, and it's not this false confidence that he walks around with. We see the work, and I'm sure he's doing it when we're not around because he shows up the next day and you ask questions and he's on top of it. Just like Finley, those guys are all doing a good job in that group. Pitch and Brian do a good job in there, and Brad Carthorpe's in there as well. So we got a good group all in there, very collaborative effort, and they're all on top of the details, and they show up and they're ready to go. And it is some competition in the meeting room as well now to make sure that you know all the answers when they're asked. And those guys do a really good job. Dan leading that group does a good job really teaching those guys and quizzing those guys and making sure they're on top of all the details. So I've been pleased with how they've attacked the playbook and gone through these first couple of days.
Also, just to follow up real quick, you said that, he had transferred before, you yourself as a transfer quarterback. And it's interesting because a lot of coaches, that there's a negative connotation to guys who transfer. You're saying that there is a benefit to that. If there's something to be gained from that process, correct?
He's been through before having to earn the respect of your teammates. And I would imagine, I don't know this for certain, but you don't do it by walking in and opening your mouth and saying a lot of things before you actually earn it. You got to do it through your leadership, you showing you know exactly what to do. When your number's called, you do it through proving your toughness, which he hasn't quite had the opportunity to do yet with our guys because he hasn't got knocked on his butt yet. But that time will come, and so he's been through this process before. Finley's been through that process before. So these guys know what it takes to earn the credibility that you need to lead the team and play that position. And so they're utilizing their experiences to help them in this position they're in now.
Something you guys liked about Joe during the drafting process was what he did when the play broke down. It seemed like he did that a couple of times in the red zone today. I was just wondering. I know you haven't seen tape or anything yet, but he got Tyler one time on one when it broke down. Just wondering your impressions on that.
That's where a lot of touchdowns happen. Is on these broken plays down in the red zone, and so we've made that a big point of emphasis over the course of last season. It's. We were awful in the red zone. We did improve later in the season, but overall we were awful at the end of the year when you look at our red zone, and a lot of it was on third downs. Our third down, completion percentage down there was not very good. So that's been a big point of emphasis this entire offseason. Again, today the defense I felt like beat us in the red zone down there offensively, but there was some moments to extend some plays, and our guys got to do a better job of being in phase and provide some opportunities.
What will you do with Trey Waynes as far as him coming back in the building? Will he stay out for a period of time, or when will you kind of have him come back? How will that work?
As he recovers, you want to give him a little space. But for a new guy like Trey, and I spoke to him about this, you want him around the team. He doesn't yet know, especially because of what we went through this offseason, guys outside the building. I want him to get to know his teammates, get to know his coaches, be around those guys, let them get a feel for him. So at the right time, have him around, and even though he's played in a very relatable scheme for the last couple of years in Minnesota, it's still good to be around the guys and hear that when you haven't actually had the physical reps with our guys. And so, again, there will be time for him to get back involved in all that.
And as far as on the field, filling in, Darius is the obvious one stepping in immediately. You've talked about the depth of the room before, but what do you need to see out of Darius, particularly over this stretch in practice, to have that confidence and belief that he can be the one to take on that role potentially?
I think Darius has been off to a good start here in training camp. He obviously has made the big splash plays in the opportunities he got last year. Now it's just the overall consistency from down to down, and that's what we expect to see from him. But again, he's off to a solid start here. I've been pleased with some of the things I've seen him do. But again, we got guys competing for those jobs as well. It's early in training camp. We don't have to make any declarations for who's going to have that starting job. He's obviously going to have a great opportunity to be that guy, but we feel like we got some good guys there that can come in there and compete.
I have a feeling
does his size limit him on the outside at all? I'm sorry, does his size limit him on the outside at all, or is that just something where a guy like that just learns how to play with that over time?
He's got a great feel for the ball. He's not afraid to be physical. He's got a good knack when the ball's in the air of getting his hand on it, and either come down with it in a pick or getting a PBU or making it difficult for the receiver. So, there's been plenty of DBs that aren't categorized as big DBs that have had plenty of success, and so expect that from DP. Go ahead, Ben.
I have a feeling I know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it anyways. Do you expect right now, I know it's early, but do you expect Trey Waynes to come back and play at any point this season?
Too early to tell. We'll just see how this rehab goes, and we'll know in a further time from now, but too early to tell.
Quarterback offensive line relationship is obviously important, and Joe was joking about how they had to become his best friends, and he'd be getting them nice Christmas gifts toward the end of the year. Does he have a uniquely good feel? Can you tell that in building that relationship with those guys up front?
Time will tell. I try to stay away from some of that, and give the players their space to form those relationships. So I can't really speak to that right now, really through 3 days of practice and 2 weeks of work. I let the players handle that the best way. You want it to be natural. You don't want it to be forced in any way. So I'm not the best authority to speak on that yet.
Coach, Joe talked about the tighter windows in the NFL when you're throwing the ball. Is that something that with rookie quarterbacks you really try to make them very much aware of, that what may have worked in college is more minimal at the NFL level?
And it's not so much the accuracy, it's the timing. A lot of times you have to anticipate these windows. Versus man coverage, obviously, you're just trying to put in the best location possible. But versus some of these zone defenses, it's the biggest difference from college to the pro is just having to throw with more anticipation. Like you said, they are tighter windows, but that just means understanding the looks that are presenting and the ways that you attack those looks and the timing that the ball's got to come out. And that takes repetition for some of the looks. So far our defense hasn't presented a lot of unique looks yet. It's day 3 of their install, so they haven't done too much that's too complicated. So we've been facing some pretty standard coverages. That's going to come here in the next week when we'll start really getting changed, a lot more disguises. It's going to make things harder for the quarterbacks for certain. But again, it's just the anticipation that really has to change. And the pocket, just in general, the pass rushers are really good at this level. And so the pocket gets a little bit tighter. And so it's not even as much about the accuracy sometimes. It's just understanding that you don't have all day to sit back there and throw that ball. You got to get it out on time.
Kind of in the same vein, how much do you want to see Joe aggressively pushing the ball downfield, maybe even making decisions that he wouldn't in a game, just so he can get a better feel for what he can and can't do at this level? Is that something you're preaching to him or talking to him about at this point?
There's certainly concepts that we run where you could be thrown into traffic. You could be pushing the ball downfield in what maybe looks like a bad single safety look with the safety back there and the receiver running full speed. That we have to not experiment's the wrong word, but there's some trial and error there that's got to happen in practice because you don't necessarily want it to happen in the game. And so there's plenty of times when someone may be watching as a casual observer and say, what a terrible decision by the quarterback, where you got to utilize these practice reps to get that. And a lot of the guys get it on the scout team. When they don't come in and they're not a starter immediately, there's a little more free reign to force some of these balls because you're going against the defense, trying to service them. And some guys learn that way. Joe's coming in day 1 as a starter, so he's going to have to learn early in training camp some of these things. And again, we try not to overcoach it. If it's not necessarily a bad decision, it's hey, I needed to see this to see if I could fit it in there or get this ball down the field and what this receiver, what kind of plays he makes down the field. There will be a time and a place for that where they're not necessarily bad decisions. It's just we got to see what we got there.
Coach, when the quarterback's off schedule, improvising, creating, extending plays, it's controlled chaos. There are rules, that the receivers, you should deep, you come in shallow. If you're shallow, you're going deep, that kind of thing. Have you guys gotten into all that, or is it way too early in the stages of installing your offense to bother with that at this point?
That's day 1 install. We make sure our guys are on top of that. That's pretty good for a former lineman. You actually paid attention in the scramble installs. That's pretty good. No, that's a big point of emphasis for us. You got field scramble rules, red zone scramble rules. There's plenty of tape today to teach off of. Trenton Irwin had a great example one today where he did a great job and caught a ball there at about the 4-yard line. But that's something we certainly impress upon our guys early in training camp.
Coach, Drew Sample had a couple of nice moments during 11 and 11. What are you looking from him in year 2?
Well, just getting him back healthy is a big thing because we were seeing really good progress from him as the season went on. Excited about the potential he has. He's had a great offseason. So he's always going to be an asset in the run game. He's doing a nice job in the pass game, using everything he's got to create separation. He's got great attention to detail in his routes. He and CJ both have really done a nice job so far. But I was pleased with Drew as the season went on, and obviously everyone was disappointed when he got hurt, but we expect good things from Drew this year.
A couple more questions, guys, then we'll let Coach go.
Back to Darius Phillips. He really kind of emerged as a pretty solid returns guy last year. If he is the guy that ends up being that starting outside corner, how difficult is that decision of when and where to use him as a returner?
Yeah, there's certainly moments that Darren and Cole play with to figure out who's returning, what field position. We got 3 guys working it right now with Alex, Darius, and TB. And so, again, it's early in training camp, so we don't have to make decisions like that yet. But we're just looking for quality reps from those guys, that they're focused when they're back there as a returner, they're securing the ball. They're doing the things that we need them to do in the return game, but all three of those guys are back there competing.
When Joe was talking to Joe about pushing the ball downfield, kind of like we were talking about earlier, he mentioned, well, you're not opening everybody up to be your receivers running 50-yard routes over and over again this early in camp. Is there a balance for you in that when you do start pushing that and having guys open up on the outside a little bit more and running longer routes, things like that? Is that part of the process of this time of year?
It is. We're still getting a feel for where our guys are at. They've been doing the strength and conditioning stuff for 8 days now. We're early in camp. Guys are excited. They're doing a lot of good work. You're in your third day. That's where a lot of the soft tissue stuff typically pops up in training camp. So that's why we're doing red zone today. That way it takes it out of the equation. Guys can't throw the ball down the field or you're throwing it out of the end zone. So there's a purpose to how we practice. There will be times, there hasn't been one yet really, where we've called the shots down the field to push it down the field, but we still got 3 weeks worth of camp left to get that work done. But we're very mindful to make sure that we're not overextending our guys and they can still be explosive and work in that low red zone work.
In the soft tissue, the rain today, is that something that's welcome to kind of see how guys adjust to the adversity, or is there a little bit of unease with the fact that their soft tissue issues have been so prevalent across the league?
I didn't let my mind go there. It was only about 10 plays. We were almost through the script when it started coming down. We were we were inside the 10-yard line, so the weren't throws down the field. So it's good because we put 3 snaps on the ground. That stuff's going to happen. It can't happen. It did happen today. It usually happens the first time it rains, but it's good for our guys to know we got to get that work. And it's not as easy to throw the ball. The exchanges are a little murkier, sometimes the backs and the quarterbacks, and that's stuff we got to dial in on. And it'll get you beat if you play in a game this year and it's rain, and all of a sudden you put 3 balls on the ground, you're going to lose the game. And so it's good to send that message to our guys early on that we got to do a better job with the ball security when the conditions aren't ideal.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Coach, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.